Welcome. We are now live, and that is awesome. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. I am Elon. I'm kidding. No, I'm Brad. This is Elon. I figured we don't need name badges on the bottom of our video
Yeah.
because we are our brand.
We don't need no introduction.
We don't need, okay, I don't want to get flagged for copyright there, but so what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining. I'm glad that you could make it. I know Elon doesn't really care, but I'm glad.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just give me space. That's his shirt.
Give me space.
UV. Anyway.
Get away from me.
So yeah, that actually that countdown timer and everything worked this time, guys. So thank you. Last time we just started. So thanks for stopping by, joining us. If you are here in the comments, let us know. Craig is already here and he already says hi, guys. So
Hi,
welcome,
Craig.
How you doing? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for being here.
Eventually, we should get some music to go along with that countdown. That'll be cool.
Yeah. We're just kind of using the stock stuff, but we could finagle something. We could whip something up. Elon is a music guy and I'm a music guy, so I think together we could come up with
may our powers combine.
Or if the industry and the world has taught us anything, is AI can just do it all for us.
True.
So anyway, so today we are going to be talking about video game adaptations to the big and small screen, because recently there's been would you say an influx, Elon, of...
I would. That's
kind of
exactly the word I was thinking of.
Hey, there's been a massive influx actually of just content that was video games or are video games, and there are now just tons and tons. Hi Joel, thanks for stopping by, buddy. Thank you.
Hello.
There's just a ton of content now, and I think to kind of talk about the history of video game adaptations, from the start, with Super Mario Brothers, with John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins.
Which was that the first? Which was the first?
I think that may be the first. I mean, if we kind of look back in the 70s and 80s, I don't really think there was a video game adaptation of like Pong or Pac-Man, which, to quote Scott Pilgrim, it was originally Puck-Man, but anyway.
Right.
But they changed the P. But yeah, I think the first, well, let's just say the major tentpole game at that time, right? Super Mario Brothers.
Well, I think that was like 90, what was 90, it, 93?
91, actually, I think.
Oh, man.
I'll have to look that up.
Wait, because I know, gosh, when was Mortal Kombat 2?
That was like 94? Because I remember seeing that movie in the theater twice because I loved it so much. And 93, you're right, Super Mario Brothers.
I listened to a podcast like literally the past couple of days. The How Did This Get Made podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the episode, was going over Mortal Kombat. The original. Oh, 95. That's when
95 for Mortal Kombat. Yep.
Yeah.
Test
and Mortal
your
Kombat
might.
Annihilation. But I mean, it was funny because listening to this How Did This Get Made podcast talking about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
They had actually recorded it several years ago, but they just kind of reissued it on their main podcast stream, whatever.
Yeah.
Feed, you could say. And it's just funny how, like, taking a look at things that happened when we were kids, right? Well, 95, I was in 8th grade. So at the time, being an 8th grader, Mortal Kombat was everything.
Oh, dude.
I mean, I don't know about you, but yeah, it was literally made for people my age. So of course, if you look back on it,
Much to the chagrin of parents everywhere when they saw Sub-Zero rip the head off as a
right?
fatality, and they're like, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But I mean, it's because I mean, if you look back on any of the movies that you watched as a kid and loved as a kid, with through the lens of being an adult, of course it's going to be probably terrible. But I remember the soundtrack to Mortal Kombat. I remember getting the CD of the Mortal Kombat soundtrack
Oh
and
yeah.
loving it, especially like the main Mortal Kombat
Mhm.
song by Tracy Lords, I think it was, or
I don't know.
somebody. I don't know.
Covered by Smosh, that was made very popular by their Mortal Kombat video. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
oh man,
everyone, I think,
Smosh. Wow.
yeah, back in the day when like
Yeah.
at the advent of YouTube, and now we're here,
Mhm.
and you know,
Yeah.
no more of that. But um,
No, I think Smosh is still going on. I don't think it's the
oh, they
original
are no, no, they just
the
bought it back.
original two guys.
They just bought it from Mythical Good Myth, the guys at Mythical Morning bought it years ago,
Yeah.
and they recently I can't remember their names. It's I don't know why that escapes me right now, but they bought it back
Huh.
recently. They kind of went on a whole thing about it. So they're like they're kind of going back to their roots, and they said if this fails, then
Wow.
we both decided we want to do this, and
Do you know what
yeah.
they were doing in the interim when they didn't own it?
One guy, I think one guy kind of like left to do his own thing, and then I could look up their names, but like one of the guys stayed with Smosh and kind of worked for Smosh after they were. I mean, I don't know how it exactly all panned out, but Good Mythical
Yeah.
Morning bought it. He ended up staying, and I mean, Smosh has been a channel for a while, and they
Yeah.
have millions and millions of subscribers, and they've been
Yeah.
doing content for a while. They have like a kind of a cast of people. They do like skits and
Right.
kind of game show bits and stuff, and it's kind of turned into something different than what it probably originally was intended, which is I could see why some like one of the original guy was like, yeah, this isn't really what I want to do.
Right.
So, yeah. I was going to recommend while we're on the topic of Mortal Kombat, and
Yeah.
there is a channel called Strafe Fox on YouTube. I'm going to share my screen just so you guys can see it.
Mhm.
And then we'll also want to talk or also want to mention that let's see. There it is. There it is. We'll add
Ding.
see if this works. Oh wow, yeah, no, that's real time, ladies and gentlemen. So there's a channel called Strafe Fox, and they did a making of Mortal Kombat, and I think they also did. They may have also done or did like Mortal Kombat 2, but it
Yeah.
really dives into how they made the original Mortal Kombat video game. So if you're into that kind of stuff,
Whoa.
it is super cool. Basically, they used like VHS cameras, like or I don't know, like broadcast cameras to capture these frames of video. Like it was insane, the amount of kind of engineering
Mhm.
that went into this stuff back in the day. I just wanted to kind of
Yeah.
side note that because it's a really really interesting documentary, even if you're not kind of into video game development, to kind of
Mhm.
see how people thought of a fighting game in like the 90s. It was insane. Like it's kind of like watching an old school like behind the scenes of your favorite movie, and the way they had to do things. You're like, whoa, like they had to do
Yeah.
what? Like this kind of like outside of the box thinking. It was reminiscent, honestly, of watching like the Light and Sound documentary about ILM,
Oh, right. Yeah.
because it's like the things they were doing at the time that pioneered the industry. Uh, the guys at Midway were doing,
Mhm.
but with all this stuff like digitizing real people and stuff. So,
Yeah,
um,
was that the first video game that ever did that? That took like actual people and
I don't
digitized them?
I don't I don't think so, but it may have been one of the first kind of major like arcade releases because like for people that aren't old enough to remember arcades were huge
Yeah.
back in the 90s, you know,
Yeah,
like they
man.
were. I remember going to arcades just pumping quarters into Mortal Kombat.
Mhm.
um it was, yeah.
'Cause back
Oh
then, video game consoles were really expensive. So yeah, I get it how a lot of people would just rather spend money in an arcade, play a few games, and just peace out.
yeah.
Because I remember, like right around the time Mortal Kombat came out, my buddy Mike and I were also really into Tekken, and I remember when Tekken 2 came out, we went to Blockbuster and rented a
Yeah.
PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
So that's a bygone era for sure. I mean, just the fact that I mentioned Blockbuster, but also that you could rent a video game console is just
I
wow.
we could honestly probably do a whole podcast episode about renting game consoles because that was my jam. Like growing up as a fairly poor kid,
Mhm.
you know, spending all my lawn money on renting a Sega CD that I could attach to my Sega Genesis and play Night Trap was and Sewer Shark, all of these like full motion video games. You're like, this is
Mhm.
amazing. I know we're kind of straying off topic, but I mean, it's all like it's crazy the it's all like video game relative or related, but it's
Yeah.
just crazy like looking back at how things were and how things are now, and you know, having that perspective sometimes is, I think we tend to look at everything back then with kind of rose tinted goggles or glasses or whatever the phrase
Right.
is. And you know, if it has anyone tried to play GoldenEye on N64 recently on an actual N64, it's not a great experience. It's
Oh, no,
it's a
no.
tough one, man. I mean, I love it. I love retro gaming, but
Mhm.
man, it's there's some you almost like need a full retro setup. You need like a CRT. You need all of the belt, like
Yeah.
all of that. But it's like I don't want to go try to source one or find one and then have to deal with, you know, a smaller one like a 19-inch Quasar, which is what I had growing up.
Right.
But yeah, before we move on, I do want to mention that we do are going to be taking questions. If you have a topical question or a comment, then put a TQ in front and then ask about the current topic so we can see it. Opinions are always welcome, even if they're wrong. So I added that. I mean, no opinion's wrong. I just thought it was kind of funny. But if you have a general question, those are typically going to get starred or favorited by us and then answered near the end of the stream. So put a GQ, just like the magazine, in front there, so we could easily see it and tag it. Because as we talk, it you know things get. Uh, Elon takes over and talks for a little bit. I can go tag it. He can tag. So basically, it's like a way for us to just easily see this stuff. And then finally, super chat, super stickers, they are enabled. As long as
Yeah,
Elon enabled monetization on his end,
I did.
they
Yeah.
are available. So you can hit us with one of those if you want to. They are not required, but they do come highly recommended. No, they're not not required at all. But it shows your support for us and what we do, and we appreciate it. But we're still going to answer your question regardless.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
you know, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the comments do get
a
rapid
little crazy.
fire.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you really need an answer to a question, then yeah, we'll definitely.
Hell, Johnny Cage. Yes.
Yeah, dude. I know, because
Uh,
that was the thing is like the movie as a movie, speaking of Mortal Kombat still, as a piece of cinema, yeah, it's not that great. But as a, 12, 13-year-old, seeing those characters come to life on the big screen was all I had ever hoped for.
yeah.
And it was amazing. And when Johnny Cage does the splits and hits Goro in the nuts, I mean, that's
Yeah.
straight from the
Yeah.
game. So it's like, yeah, we're all just cheering in the theater. Like, yeah, because listening to the How Did This Get Made podcast about it, they were confused. They're like, "Why?" Because they didn't really know the video game. They're a little bit older than our generation, maybe like 5 to 8 years older than us. So they just kind of missed that window of being really into Mortal Kombat like we were.
Yeah.
So they never really played it, so they didn't really know the lore behind it or all the characters and etc. So when Johnny Cage does that move, they were confused, like, what? Why did he do that? Why did he have to? I mean, I guess it looked pretty cool, but why did he do that? They didn't realize that that is Johnny Cage's move in the video game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just things like that. It's like, yeah, yes and no. Like, yes, you're making good points on that. It was just a really terrible movie, but you also didn't play the game. You weren't in that whole scene like we
Yeah.
were. But yeah, because I mean it. Like Raiden, for example. Raiden, the guy who played Raiden in the Mortal Kombat movie, was the same guy who played Highlander.
Christopher
He's not
Lambert.
even
Yep.
he's not even Asian. So like,
You know,
that happened a lot in the 90s, or
if you go back, I'm not sure the actor who played Raiden originally in the video game was Asian.
really?
So, yeah, yeah. If you look back, I'm not 100% sure. So,
Oh man.
um, yeah.
Hmm.
This comment was funny to me, bro. There's 5 people in here. Comments are fine. LOL. So Nick, if you're not,
Hey, Nick,
wait a minute, man. That's not cool. No, we are actually
there's
dual streaming
tons.
on my home theater gamer channel and Elan's. So it's just a way for us to kind of eh, keep things organized and simple.
Yeah.
'Cause if I'm trying to run the show behind the scenes and yeah, it just becomes a thing where I'm like on a different tab and then I have to like sometimes there's 10 comments in a row and I have to anyway. I just thought it was funny. Yeah. There's 5 people in here. I know. Trust me. I know. I could see them. But yeah, so Mortal Kombat was looking it up, came out in 95. Looking at Super Mario Brothers, it was the first live action film based on a video game IP.
Ah,
There were cartoons of Super Mario Brothers, I think, in the 80s, like
right.
a Peach movie and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, they Super Mario Brothers, first 1993 or first live action film with Dennis Hopper as King Koopa. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and if you watch it as in today's kind of landscape, it's not a great movie. I
No.
mean, Mortal Kombat is not a great movie. I think it did a lot of things right. As like a kid seeing that movie in the theater, I was all for it.
Yeah.
And even though I wasn't a huge Street Fighter fan, I saw that movie in the theater and I was all for it because it's Cammy. But Kylie
Yes.
Minogue, everybody, Kylie
Yes,
Minogue.
please.
Um, it was such a. I'm gonna be careful with my thumb this time. Those that
Yeah.
haven't watched any of the previous ones, this Evie Mux has a recognition thing where it will pop up a thumbs up if I give it a thumb
Yeah.
up in the thing. Anyway, so yeah, seeing all of that as a kid, as a kid, your kind of perception of what's good and bad is a little different.
Oh, yeah.
A big time and that's part of why so many things these days are kind of getting rehashed, remade, rebooted, whatever. They're
Mhm.
banking on that nostalgia because they remember you loved this when you were 10 years old, and what's funny is if you watch some of those movies that you loved when you were 10, a lot of them, especially kind of like the more, let's say, indie kid films,
Mhm.
I'm kind of looking at like a couple of my favorites was like the Dirt Bike Kid with Peter Billingsley from A Christmas Story, where he gets a dirt bike and
Oh.
like yeah, it basically is alive and there's that movie and then there's a Canadian film from like the late 80s called Tommy Tricker and the Stamp Traveler. I probably no one in the comments has ever heard of that movie. But basically a kid like dives into a stamp and travels the world and it was like the coolest thing. Both of those
Whoa.
movies are so incredibly hard to watch. Like they're so bad on so many levels, but as a kid they were just I wanted a dirt bike and I wanted to jump on a stamp and I wanted to travel the
Yeah.
world. Uh, so I think, looking at a lot of these older movies with that kind of mindset too, it's like, as much as the Mortal Kombat movie is bad, I could still sit through it. The second one, though, I don't know about that. Like the Mortal Kombat Annihilation, that
Yeah.
was really rough. That was really
Dude,
rough.
even back then, I knew it was a horrible movie. So that's saying something because that was 97 when that came out.
Yeah. And yes, Nick, a postage stamp. Um, yeah, this is yeah. Please look up the movie on YouTube and just it had a really young um Rufus Wainwright, like kind of popular artist. I don't know how
Mhm.
popular he is, but he's been around for a while. It was, yeah, it was it's pretty bad. Um, and yeah, Siphonics, I'm sorry. Siphonics said, remember the movie The Power Glove? It was a secret weapon. Yes, The Wizard
Yeah, dude.
with Fred Savage.
Fred
So, okay,
Savage. That's right.
that is just sidetrack real quick. Tommy Tricker in the Stamp Traveler is the name of the movie. They actually had a sequel called Return of Tommy Tricker. Not a good movie. Um,
Because
Neither of
the
them are
first one
great.
was
Yeah,
really
this
good.
first one was great. But but yeah, going back to The Wizard, so that's not technically a video game movie. It's based around video games,
Yes.
but at the time, it was like one of the biggest movies for one sole reason, and that was the only way you could see footage of Super Mario Brothers 3 before it released.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
the movie
That's
came
right.
out before the game came out, I believe,
Mhm.
and that was how they were getting people into the theater. I honestly think it's a great movie.
That's a
Um,
good marketing campaign too,
yeah,
honestly, for the game.
yeah. Oh crap! Nick's gonna watch Tommy Tricker and the Stamp Traveler. Nick, please join us next week in the comments. I want to know what you think of this Canadian film from like 1988 or something. Like it is. Yes. Anyway.
Well, thanks,
Oh
Christian.
yeah, Christian. Thank you so much for the super
I mean,
chat.
not even a question or anything, just a, hey, how are you doing? And here's this for you. So
Yeah. Well, I'm
thanks
gonna
a lot.
highlight his latest comment too. Let's see a remake of Cloak and Dagger. So that was the Henry Thomas and why can't I can never remember it's not I can never remember this guy's name. He was in so many things. I'm gonna see it and I'm gonna be like, oh, he was in Beverly
Dagger.
Hillbillies movies.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's a
Cloak and
1984
Dagger.
film starring Henry Thomas and Dabney Coleman. Um, yeah. Oh, and
Yeah,
William
there we go.
Forsythe is in it. I've met William Forsythe a couple times. He's a super nice guy. Um, I don't know, Nick. If you could sit through Troll 2, I think this might be worse. Oh my god. Which, yeah, but not to troll or keep going back and forth, but if nobody's seen the documentary on the worst film ever made called Troll 2, definitely give it a watch. It's a great like
I thought it was Plan 9 from Outer Space. I thought that was the worst movie ever made.
it was, but Troll 2 came out and dethroned it as the worst movie. I think it's IMDb's worst movie ever made or something.
That's the one with Warwick Davis as the troll, right?
No, you're thinking of Leprechaun.
Oh.
Yeah, no, this is a
Mm.
completely different thing.
Huh. Well, what's troll then?
Well, it's Troll 2, not Troll. It's
Right.
completely different. I know we're getting super sidetracked here, but it's by a different director, everything. The director he didn't really speak English that well, and I don't think his wife spoke English that well either, and they wrote this
Mm.
script. And the trolls weren't even trolls, they were goblins.
Ah.
Like I remember there's a street in the movie called Neilbog, which is goblin spelled backward, and even the kid's like Neilbog. And he sees it like in a car mirror and it says Goblin, and he's like, it's so bad. Yes, it's an Italian director and wife and director. Yeah, the documentary is even more interesting and fun to watch than the movie because yeah, and you see how out of touch the director is. Thinking, yeah, even today. Um, but yeah, Anyway, so back to video games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, man, I honestly don't think I've even seen the Super Mario Brothers movie all the way through. I think I've just seen random clips because even back then, I didn't really have an interest to go see it. Because doesn't it deviate? Like, it has absolutely nothing to do with the actual video game itself. Like, Dennis
Um,
Hopper's character, there's like lizard people in it and stuff.
yeah, he's like transforming or forcing people to turn into lizard people, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, outside of like the names and of characters and stuff, I don't know that there's much of a correlation there other than in naming and some of the subject matter, like it was. But if we're looking at like Mortal Kombat, where it was like kind of okay, each of these characters, you got Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Kano. Like I just hear the song in my head now. But you have all these characters that were in the movie, and the movie set up kind of a plot around it. And I think it was kind of based on the kind of lore from the original game, because the original game kind of opened with these cutscenes or kind of even just like little static images kind of giving a backstory, and they kind of based a
Yeah.
lot of the characters traits and arcs on that, and so they converted it over. And honestly, coming off, if we look at Super Mario Brothers and then look at Mortal Kombat, there was a step up in quality. It just wasn't enough. Like Mortal Kombat is still
Yeah,
like a far better movie than
for sure.
Super Mario Brothers, in my opinion. Which, by the way, you can get Super Mario Brothers on 4K Blu-ray now. As if anybody
Wow.
really needed that, but if you really wanted to watch it
4K?
in the highest quality, did a full rescan of the original camera negative and everything. It's the
Wow.
best it will ever look. I'm actually, I want to check it out because I haven't seen it since like probably the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I think I think if I could watch it, and I might be surprised if I just say this isn't a Super Mario Brothers movie, this is just kind of a cheesy 90s movie. I wonder
Right.
how it would hold up. I really do. Because when you have I mean, I've seen a lot of bad movies over the years, so I'm like, is this going to be as bad as that?
Right. Well, that's the thing is once Super Mario Brothers bombed, yeah, that's then Nintendo just went dark as far as putting their IP into movies
Mhm.
until the animated one that just came out last year. So yeah, it had been, you know, 30 years. Yeah, exactly 30 years
Wow.
since
Yeah.
the first Super Mario Brothers movie. Because they just didn't want anyone else to even touch their IP. They're like, no way, you ruined it. We're
Yeah.
never going to do a movie again. And then
Yeah.
finally they came around last year.
I thought this was interesting. Here's a reversal. Alien was the first video game based on a movie. I thought it was
Mm.
E.T., or am I wrong? When was E.T.? The notorious
Well,
E.T. Atari
no,
game.
he's right because I think because
Yeah.
E.T. the movie came out in '82, and then the video
Right.
game came out probably after
Why?
that, which was also
Yeah.
considered. Isn't it still considered one of the worst video games ever? E.T.
Yeah. It's filled landfills. It's filled. Yeah. Um,
That'd be a
yeah. Since
good.
this came out on Atari, E.T. came out uh, on Atari in December 1982.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so but Alien may have actually been the first game. Alien Atari, yeah, 1982, Alien, November
Mm.
1982. So yes, you are
Ooh,
100% correct.
a month before.
Yeah, so like literally it was around the same time, but for all intents and purposes, um, it Alien was the first movie to video game adaptation.
Mhm.
Wow, that's thank you for that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Was that also on Atari? The
Yeah,
Alien
Atari
video game?
2600. Yeah. How
Wow.
far we've come. How far we've come.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we kind of, okay, so we kind of talked about Super Mario Brothers. I also like when people call it Super Mario Brothers, like
Yeah.
they put an emphasis on
Or
Mario.
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 That's
I
how
did,
that's
did I,
how, that's how he says it in Ghostbusters too.
oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Rick Moranis' character. He's like, "You
You want
wanna
to play Parcheesi or Super
Super
Mario
Mario
Brothers? Yeah, that's
Brothers?"
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh man. Oh,
Ah,
that's
national
when
treasure.
right? That's when him and Janine are babysitting little Oscar,
Yes.
right? Named after a hot dog, you poor man. Um,
Right.
I quote that movie. I love the first two Ghostbusters. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if
Yeah.
people say that the second one is worse. As a kid, I didn't give a crap. Like I was just like,
I've seen that one
love it.
more. I've seen Ghostbusters 2 way more than Ghostbusters 1.
Have you? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could put a like value on how many times I've seen either one because it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Because just that whole, like, the ooze and the huge picture, where
of
it comes to life.
Vigo.
Yes, Vigo.
Yes,
Yeah, just
command me, Lord, with
uh,
Janos. Yep.
right.
How's the baby? Ooh. I love. By the way, Peter McNichol, great actor. He was also
Mhm.
fantastic in Adam's Family Values. If you've never seen that, he was in wasn't Ally. I always get these confused for some reason. It wasn't Ally McBeal. No, maybe it was Ally McBeal. I think he
Actually, I
was
think
in
it
that.
was, now that you
Yeah,
mention it, yeah.
I used to get that and Veronica Mars confused, even though they were like 10 to 15 years apart. Um,
Right.
but Veronica Mars has the guy from Galaxy Quest as the lead
Ah,
alien. I don't know what, like, I don't know. Character actors are just, they don't get enough cred, man.
I
They
know,
don't get
right?
enough cred. They make those movies.
They really
Um,
do.
yeah, we could honestly do a whole stream or podcast of just us quoting Ghostbusters. Like we could go
Right.
through the whole thing. Um, but yeah, so if you look at those like those video game movies, and then I think the second or like the other major kind of video game adaptation, I want to say between like Mortal Kombat or after Mortal Kombat was Resident Evil,
Well,
right?
when did
Like
Street Fighter come out?
oh, it's Street Fighter, yeah, Street Fighter I think was around
Around the same time, right?
94 actually, so it came out
Oh, wow.
before Mortal Kombat. See,
93,
we've seen
94,
the same
95.
things, yeah.
Wow, okay.
It was speaking of Raul Julia, it's his last film, I think, because um, he had lung cancer and he was
Oh,
sick during the whole filming of that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, way to bring it down, Brad. Jeez. Um, and I
Yeah.
forgot Ming Na was in that. Ming Na has been in like Agents of Shield and a bunch of stuff, but I
Yeah.
forgot she played Chun Li in the
Mhm,
movie, and it's weird going back and seeing that. It's like watching, was it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze,
mhm.
and the guy that played Shredder was the like scientist from Lost, like in all of the Dharma Initiative stuff from back in the day.
Oh,
And
no
you're like,
way.
whoa, yeah. I think it was TMNT 2 or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. I think.
Yeah,
Could be wrong on that.
yeah.
I just remember that quote, "They're babies," when Toka and
Right.
Razor came out, and
Oh!
yeah, and then Vanilla Ice shows up and ruins the whole movie. Um,
Ninja, rap.
rap, heck yeah. Um,
Well, speaking of Ninja Turtles, that was a comic book,
right. So it was an adaptation from a comic book.
but also a very successful video game franchise. Because I remember playing lots of, like,
Oh,
the arcade side scroller.
yes. Which
That was a cool
Shredder's
one.
Revenge is a new kind of updated take on that, and it's very reminiscent of.
Oh,
that kind of
cool.
old school beat 'em up arcade. I
Yeah.
hated the Nintendo. I loved and hated the Nintendo game.
Yeah.
It was so insanely difficult.
When you're
The
swimming
the
through the
water,
things and having to dodge the electric whatever.
and the fucking
Oh,
timers going off, and you like you're just it's like impossible.
yeah.
That's like one of my favorite episodes of the Angry Video Game Nerd,
Right.
where he talks about that. And oh man, I remember when he was the Angry Nintendo Nerd, and then Nintendo made him change it. Um,
Oh.
yeah, copyright, man. Nintendo
Mhm.
doesn't mess around.
Yeah.
They might even copyright this for saying their name. I don't know. So you can't say it.
You can't say Nintendo.
But yeah, so that was kind of a major, um, major, excuse me, major like IP or
Mhm.
major thing that was based on a comic book. And Ghostbusters was also the real Ghostbusters. Was that before the movies? I think you can
Gosh.
tell we didn't do any research, guys.
We're so on top of it.
I
Look at us
know, I know.
go.
We just like to quote wrong things, and so we won't go further into that. We'll edit this out. Edit this out, Elon,
You just gotta say it with
right now.
confidence, and then people will believe you.
Yes. I really care about you. Anyway, uh, just say something completely false. I really have hair. I just like to shave my head. It's true. But so, okay. So we go from the kind of like Street Fighter, which I mean, if you want to talk about Street Fighter, I remember I have a fond memory. I want to say fond. Fond's not the right word. A vivid memory.
You can go ahead then, because I don't really have much
Okay.
memory of that.
Here's a
Except
memory
for
I have of it.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is in it. That's all I really know.
Yeah. Here's the memory I have of going to the theater with my family because I wanted to see Street Fighter so bad. This is back in the day when like kind of parents didn't really know what the hell their kids wanted to go see or any. So my dad was like, Street Fighter, okay. He knew Jean-Claude Van Damme, obviously, he knew Raul Julia. He knew some other people in it. And it was like me, my dad, my like 10-year-old sister, and then my mom. And like the movie opens with like Raul Julia's character breaking people's necks, like just left and right in this kind of like arena battle. I think this has been a while,
Yeah.
so apologies if I'm getting that wrong. But so he is like breaking their necks, and like M. Bison was his name. That's why I was trying to remember it. And so like my mom and sister like left to go see something else because my dad was like, "Your sister's not watching this type of violence." I'm 13, right? I'm like, what violence? Like this is nothing I haven't
Yeah.
seen before. It's a movie. Um, it was not a great movie, but Elias brings up a good point. Is that the movie itself was so, but the cast honestly was really great. Like they
Yeah.
had a great cast. Um, it was like so like I don't know, like just looking at the characters, like even like the people like cast in the characters now, like it fit right.
Mhm.
And also, when did Double Dragon the movie come out? I'm trying to remember that. 94,
Oh.
so around the same time.
Dang.
Yeah, I've never seen Double Dragon. I've never I played the games, but I never saw the movie. I've not heard great things.
I think that just came and went.
Oh wow, so Mark Dacascos was the villain, or the bald guy that was chasing John Wick in John Wick Chapter 3. He
Oh.
played Jimmy Lee in Double Dragon. He was
Ah.
also, people don't know, might not know this, he was also the host of Iron Chef America for like a long time,
Yes, that's right.
but he had
That is
hair.
correct. Yeah.
So that'd be like me showing up at some place with hair, and like I don't even know if I'd recognize myself, you know?
But you just don't even bring it
I,
up. just like, it's
Yeah,
normal.
what? I'm
I have
like
hair
I'm
down.
like George in that episode of Seinfeld where he gets a toupee, and then Elaine's like, "You're bald." He's like, "No, I was bald." And then she like rips it off and throws it out the window. Oh, such good stuff. Such good stuff. But but yeah, so I've never seen Double Dragon. Have you seen the Double Dragon
No,
movie?
never
No.
saw Double Dragon,
I
no.
mean,
But
Scott Wolf.
that's crazy though, in that short span in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's surprising that that many video game adaptations were made in such a short amount of time, considering that Mario Brothers was technically the first live action one, and it bombed, and yet
Yeah.
they just kept making them. I bet all of them were in development probably around the same time, so they couldn't just scrap every one. So
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
What's
But
crazy is that you look at the cast here. I mean, Scott Wolf, Mark Dacascos, Alyssa Milano, Robert Patrick.
oh
I
man,
mean, this was kind of coming hot off the heels of Terminator 2, you know? Um,
yeah,
this guy who I'm pretty sure was in The Mask, he played one of the kind of uh the main villains, like right hand men. Um yeah, I mean, just like you look at the cast from some of these and it's like, wow, like, going back to I think I was here. Yeah, going back to Street Fighter,
mhm,
all of, like Kylie Minogue, like Ming Na, like some of these people kind of went off into obscurity. Like this guy, like he's been in a crap ton of stuff.
yeah,
Wes Studi, like he's been in a ton of stuff. Like it's crazy to look at these movies and go, holy crap! Like
yeah.
there's so many people in here um that you go, this is like it has all the hallmarks of a good movie in the making, and then the movie comes out and you're like, what in the hell happened?
Yeah, man.
Dude,
But yeah, I
Jackie
think
Chan in a video game movie like Street Fighter or something would have been awesome.
yeah.
I do wonder if at the time, like, because he was like, we're talking like 94. I mean, he was knee deep into his own thing. So I don't even know if that was like anything Hollywood was even on his radar at that point. Because a lot of his
I
movies
know.
were even like a lot of his American movies were pretty much like filmed in Japan and then or not Japan, filmed in like Hong Kong and like his
Right.
hometown and everything, and then like overdubbed.
Yeah.
Like there's that one that I remember watching called Who Am I? And it was like so obviously like there's so much overdubbing going on in the movie that I was like, is this Kung Fu Hustle? Like is this
Right.
great movie by the way.
Yes, that
Great
is a great
movie.
movie.
Stephen Chow is yeah, Shaolin soccer, all that stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it was yeah, like just so much. I'm just gonna bring up a list of video game movies because I feel like if I don't do that, I'm gonna forget something.
I know, right? I think you're right though. After that explosion in the mid 90s, I think the next one or next prominent one was Resident Evil. Just
Yeah, I mean
because
there was Wing Commander. Oh, you know what? We have skipped over a couple. So it goes from Mortal Kombat, um, who it was done by Paul W.S. Anderson.
right.
Second one was not. Then we had Wing Commander, which was based off of a very popular video game starring Mark Hamill. The movie did not have Mark Hamill. I think it was Wing Commander had Mark Hamill in it. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. But the Wing Commander movie, I've never seen. It had Matthew Lillard, Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah. Saffron Burrows, who was everybody remembers her from Deep Blue Sea, that shark movie.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. But so we go from that, and actually before Resident Evil came out a year earlier, it was the first Lara Croft movie with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
So I
True.
think, as bad as I think that movie is, it wasn't great. I think outside of Mortal Kombat, that movie was huge when it came out.
Mhm.
You know, you had a female heroine, you know, main topic of the movie, Angelina Jolie, who was kind of like massive. She was like just gaining stardom, you know, her like she was in Hackers before that and things like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, and then in 2002 we had Resident Evil, which is also Paul W.S. Anderson. And yeah, that movie, you know, it's not great. I saw it twice in the theater. I was amazed by it when I was younger. But as you get older, you kind of yeah, you kind of yeah.
Yeah.
So like what's funny is I'm like looking at this list, even like going from like 93 to like 2002, so like a 10-year period.
Mhm.
We had 4, 6, 8 video game adaptations. And of those
Crazy.
8, only like a few were like resonated with people. Like people loved
Mhm.
them. Even if they were like critically like panned, fans still loved them.
Yeah.
You know, like Mortal Kombat kind of has a special place in my heart. Like, I mean, when that soundtrack kicks in when Johnny Cage and Scorpion are fighting,
Yeah, man.
and he goes to like hell, and like Scorpion just
Uh,
says "Welcome," and then it punches him. Like, dude, fucking epic, man.
yeah,
Like
dude.
that, like those kind of moments just make the whole movie stand out for me. Yeah, the Goro stuff was kind of stupid and hokey because it was so
Yeah.
obviously like a puppet, and it was just like his arms were just doing this, and I
Right.
was like, is
Well,
it?
like the lower arms were like
Yeah,
connected to the upper arms.
yep.
So whenever he would move his arms, the lower arms would go with it. So it's like, come on, dude.
Oh man, yeah. Fear Factory soundtrack. That's right. That. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if any of you have Spotify, you can find the original soundtrack, obviously, but you can also find all the soundtracks to the video games by Dan Forden.
Hmm.
Um, which coincidentally is, if you've played the video games, is also the guy that occasionally his head will pop up and go toasty.
Oh yeah, that guy.
So like it's that guy.
Right.
Um, it's funny listening to that. It brings me right back to the arcade in the '90s. Like
Mhm.
the music as you know, and also hearing it in such high quality and not limited by
Oh
like,
yeah.
you know, because like in the arcade there's like so much sounds and everything going on around you, but then like on the consoles they obviously had far like inferior audio chips at that time.
Yes.
So like they had to make a lot of modifications. They had to redo soundtracks or convert stuff uh, that it was yeah, to hear it now it's like whoa, like this stuff really still, how did he come up with this, you
Mhm.
know, like this is like back in like the early 90s. What the heck, it's kind of like listening to, you know, um Terrible Lie by Nine Inch Nails, and you're like, wait, this was 89, you
Right.
know, you're like, this came out in 89, like how that, but you know, it's just, man, like time flies.
Yeah, Oprah Winfrey said that they need to make a Zelda movie, and I totally agree.
Yeah, there was that fan like film made quite a few years ago, right? Like it was like kind of a like a little short that kind of went viral at the time, and they really like, I don't know, people seem to love it. Like they were like, we
Yeah.
need a Zelda movie. It feels like every once in a while something like that will come out and kind of, you know, I think people are kind of hoping for like a Deadpool situation where like the
Yeah.
studio's like, we're not going to make it. The footage or the test footage was, you know, accidentally
Uh,
released to the public,
oops.
leaked, and the rest is history.
Ryan Reynolds did it.
Hey, look at that. So it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy, man. It's crazy. Um,
Well, the thing about Zelda video games is that Link doesn't say anything. So it would just be the
which,
supporting characters, you know.
which I mean,
saying the
a lot
dialogue.
of movie these days, I think like the dialogue is completely pointless anyway. So, we don't need to hear what, this character is saying, Michael Bay. We just don't. We don't need to
Right.
hear any of this dialogue. A lot I love all the very overly expositional dialogue where it's like, they have to put a beat in here like they do ADR to like make a point of like mentioning something, and it's like,
Right.
really? Like, we don't need this. Like, this is not even I got this. Like, are you just putting
Mhm.
this in here for people that are on their phones the whole time?
I know, right?
Um, yeah. So, okay. So, Resident Evil, I think, is probably a good movie though to talk about because uh that was kind of my first like video game obsession when I
Yeah.
got a PlayStation. I went through that game, Resident Evil Director's Cut. I got a PlayStation for Christmas with Resident Evil Director's Cut, and I think it was the only game I had for a long time. And I remember the fact that you could play as both Chris and Jill and have different experiences,
Yeah.
but also have moments where things cross over.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then if you went back through the game knowing everything, you could find like little secrets and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I was obsessed with the video game. I loved the video game. And so when they announced the movie, this is back when I used to get excited for things before, life kind of kicked my ass, got in the way, and now
Adulthood.
everything
That's
just is going to be a
yeah.
disappointment until
Right.
proven otherwise. Um, so like I was excited, man, and I was like, oh my god, like I don't, I knew Mila Jovovich from Fifth Element.
Mhm.
Not a huge fan of her acting ability or lack thereof, frankly. Um, and I know that she's married to the director. So, like, obviously, like Rob Zombie likes to put his wife in every movie. Why not Paul W.S. Anderson? They can't act, but no, like she's, so I'm like, okay, I don't know this character she's playing. Is it going to be Jill? Is it going to be Alice? Like, what is happening? Rebecca Chambers? I don't know, maybe. And then I watched the movie. I'm like, I don't know who that is. Oh wait, I don't know who that is. Oh wait, oh wait, there's this guy. Oh wait, I know him. Okay, yeah, it's like they would sprinkle in characters from the video game,
Yeah.
but then I'm like, I get what. So I get on one hand, I get trying to take the video game universe and then kind of making something unique from that universe. Like it's based in the universe,
Yeah.
but it's like at that time, that's not what people like. Nobody, like everybody wanted a Resident Evil adaptation of like
Yeah, because
kind
it
of
had like a distinct storyline.
like it's a horror, it's kind of a horror game,
Yeah.
survival horror,
Right.
and it had a storyline, and like there was a lot they could have explored there, but they chose to kind of go just more this. I wouldn't even call it horror; it's just pure action movie. Like there's no
Mhm.
real horror. I mean, there's elements of like horror in there with like some of the monsters and zombies and some of the rooms that like the laser grid that like cuts them like into like little pieces. Like okay, I like I get it, but like it kind of deviated too far from the original Resident Evil formula, right? Like
Mhm.
that was kind of the point of like why I wanted to go see it. And of course, at the end of the movie, they kind of end on a cliffhanger. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. We were talking 20,
Oh, no.
20. You know what's funny is Resident Evil actually came out March 15th, 2002. So over 23 years ago. Oh wait, hold on.
22.
21 years. Yeah, 22. Sorry. 22 years ago. What? Yeah, 22 years ago. Um, they had like Michelle Rodriguez in it, which she's like, I think she why? But no, she was in Fast and Furious and people liked her or whatever. She kind of played that role really well. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I just remember seeing it. I saw it twice in the theater actually, once by myself and then once with a friend because that's back when I hung out with people. But But I remember seeing it and just being like the end. They end on this kind of cliffhanger that kind of sets up the second movie, but also kind of has like inklings of Resident Evil 2, the start of that game. And I'm like, oh, are we gonna get this? And they got me, man.
Mhm.
They got me because like when the second movie came out a couple years later in 2004, it had characters. I think they honestly needed characters from the original game
Yeah.
that people love, like Jill Valentine. Um, I don't remember all the characters that were in Resident Evil Apocalypse. They had Tyrant, which is like the big, or Mr. X, which is like the big kind of guy that chases you in Resident Evil 2. Very, very crazy. You're like, oh god, and back in the day, we had PlayStation 2 graphics or PlayStation 1 graphics, sorry.
Yeah.
Tank controls, so like the camera would just cut over to it and then suddenly you're running the way you're not supposed to be running. Very harrowing.
Right.
Very harrowing. Um I mean, if we look I am that I am posted a comment that said the liquors were a little bit of a letdown, not too good of CGI. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like the liquors in Resident Evil 2. It was on par, if not more frightening in Resident Evil 2 than the first time you run into a zombie in Resident Evil 1, where you go into that hallway, you see the
Mhm.
zombie eating Kenneth. Kenneth
Right.
was killed too, maybe by this creature. Dude, I played it so much, all the
Yeah.
dialogue is up in here, man. um, and then in the second game, you go through that hall and you just see the liquor on the ceiling and he drops down.
Yeah.
Dude, oh man, that freaked the hell out of me in Resident Evil
Yeah.
2. And then
Yeah.
you see it in the movie and it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just like womp womp. It
Yeah. So
happened.
again, it was a pure kind of action movie. There wasn't a whole lot of like tension or horror elements there. Like it was just kind of
Yeah.
set in that universe. Um,
Well, yeah, just like Siphonics says here, used to watch my friends play Resident Evil 2, and it was like watching a movie.
mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's I remember the same thing going through Resident Evil 2. I mean, it
The
was
remake too is the remake of 2 as well is really well done. It has a somewhat lackluster Dolby Atmos support, but
oh
there
yeah.
are times where liquors are above you and you walk by them and you hear them above you. It's
Yeah,
really
man.
that was like one of the things I was like, whoa, like okay, this makes Atmos worth it.
Yeah.
Um,
Game changer there. And it kind of along that same vein, did you ever play Metal Gear Solid?
I did. It's been a
Was that
while. I know
PlayStation 2 or was that the
one.
first?
I
Was that
think it was
PlayStation 1?
PlayStation.
Because I remember the controller rumbled. So I
Mhm.
think that might have been PlayStation 2. I don't know if the first PlayStation had rumble controllers or no, actually, yeah, because it was the one. It was the one that had
1998.
that big circle that would flip open. That was PlayStation 1, wasn't
Yep.
it?
I love how that's your description of it. The big circle that would flip open.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you're right. I think that was 1998. So
Yeah,
that
that
had
had
to
to
be
be the
PS1
first.
because I think
Yeah.
the PS2 came out early 2000s.
Because I
Um,
remember playing Metal Gear Solid, and yeah, I was so blown away. Because back then, like I said last week in last week's stream, that me and my friends in high school were the film guys. I remember playing Metal Gear Solid and thinking, whoa, it's like I'm literally playing a movie.
yeah.
Like just the cut scenes and just how it all came together so seamlessly. Man, like I would love to. I would love to see. I mean, I know there's some purists out there who are gonna think like, oh, I don't want a Metal Gear Solid movie because Metal Gear Solid in itself is basically a movie because the director of Metal Gear Solid was and is an actual Japanese cinema director. So they got a director from movies and brought him into the video game space and told him, let's make him a video game. And that was his, golden child. And it was really, really cool. But I can see that a lot of people probably didn't play the game because they just weren't gamers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a Metal Gear Solid movie would actually be pretty successful.
I do, I'm just looking at something up because Hideo Kojima, who I'm a big fan of, was the creator and creative director of Metal Gear Solid. I don't know that he ever actually directed films. I think
Really?
that he was just he knew what he wanted to do, loves films of all types, and so like that is kind of like
Oh,
ingrained in his DNA and his structure, and that's kind of what set him apart. Even though, much to the dismay of some people that don't like 45-minute cutscenes. Um, that's the Metal Gear Solid games have been notorious for that. Actually, a lot of his games have been notorious for just overly long kind of cinematic cutscene sequences, Death
yeah.
Stranding being one of them. Metal Gear Solid, I think Metal Gear Solid 3 had like two cutscenes back to back that spanned over an hour and a half or something like that. That were
Whoa.
like, yeah, it was like watching it. Yeah, he's like, and the thing is, in between, there was like you walk down a hallway into an elevator and it triggers another, like, it's like a 45-minute cutscene followed by a 35-minute cutscene,
Oh man.
and you're like, okay, but it's kind of, like, love them or hate them. I think like there are places for those types of games, and I think that
Mm,
if you just kind of dismiss them based on that merit alone, yeah, I mean, games are an interactive medium, but like
yeah.
there's kind of room for a
Well,
lot of different stuff.
I mean, nowadays that would actually be really cool. I mean, I wouldn't mind it, if I had, a PS5 or something hooked up in my proper theater room and I'm playing a video game that has an incredible soundtrack, but also really long cutscenes. Yeah, I'd be down for that because it's
Yeah.
it's literally like I'm playing through a movie.
There was a, speaking of kind of piggyback off of that, there was a game by Remedy called Quantum Break. So Remedy has done games like Control, Alan Wake is probably their most that, and Alan Wake and Max Payne 1 and 2 were like kind of their most prolific games, but the game Quantum Break actually tried to bridge the gap between video game and TV show. So in between each chapter, there was like an episode, like a 20 to 30-minute episode of the of like the characters in the game. Like basically, it was a TV show within a video game.
Hmm.
So like it would cut to like real actors, and we're talking about I don't remember the actor's name. He played Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Had Lance Reddick,
Oh
um,
yeah.
Sean Ashmore. I get him confused with Aaron Ashmore because they're like twins. But one of the Ashmore brothers, just a bunch of like kind of like well-known actors, especially like Lance Reddick. I mean, he was like doing Fringe at the time, I think. So like I was very, very
Oh
aware of
yeah.
him. Um, but yeah, so but it didn't like sit well with a lot of people because like people were like, oh, I just want to shoot stuff, and it's like, well, you got to stop for 30 minutes, or you're gonna miss all this story. Like there's
Yeah.
because everything tied in, and it was also done in a way where like some of the choices you made within that level affected not just that like portion of the TV series, if you want to call it that, but
Mhm.
then the rest of the game. Like if you made a choice, like it's not as abrupt as like I killed this character, he won't show up at all in the rest of the series. It's not anything crazy like that,
Mhm.
but it was done in a way where it was kind of like you impacted your choices in the game and how you handled situations, somewhat impacted like the outcome of that episode. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of but I don't know if people were kind of ready for that kind of thing.
Yeah, you definitely have to be in the right mindset to
Yeah.
be able to go through with that. But I get that. And I mean, I'm pretty sure they tried to market it that way as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone.
No, no. And I get that. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know what, everyone needs to play this game because it's the best. Like like certain games resonate with me, just like movies, TV shows. If I always find if something gets you through like a hard, difficult time, that tends to like stick with you. And Death
Yeah.
Stranding is like one of those games for some reason got me through a couple of difficult like time periods in my life. And
Hmm.
that game also hits really different, like when I was playing it during lockdown, right? Like it was just
Yeah.
yeah, it's like this whole kind of connected world where nobody kind of really interacts with each other physically anymore. And
Mhm.
so during the whole pandemic lockdown, that was a very realistic. It was a lot of FaceTime, a lot of video calls and stuff to family, and it was just like, wow, this is weird. Like it was weird.
Yeah.
They are adapting that to I think they're adapting that to a movie,
Oh,
Death
wow.
Stranding. So
Yeah.
I don't know if Norman Reedus is attached to the movie at all, but
Mhm.
he's the main character in the game. So
Right.
um, but yeah,
And it's
yeah.
and it doesn't it because I've never played Death Stranding, but it's like him, right? It looks
Yeah,
like
yeah,
him.
it's modeled after him.
Right.
All the characters like Guillermo del Toro's in it. Um, I'm trying to think. Leia Sado, I can't remember. I'm not gonna. She's a French actress. Um, there's a bunch of like Conan O'Brien makes an appearance in it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, dude, it like Hideo Kojima is like this weird kind of quirky dude that I'm like, if I ever met him, I'm pretty sure I get along with him. So we
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
lot of the same like similar interests and stuff. But it's just he puts some stuff in his games where you're just like, okay. Also, he has like a weird infatuation with like nude people, but like blurring
Oh,
it out. It's just
cool.
yeah, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. But yeah, so running down the list real quick because I realized I brought up a list and there's a lot more movies on here than I thought.
No.
Yeah. So we stopped Resident Evil, Resident Evil Apocalypse. There was the second Lara Croft Tomb Raider movie, which is actually I
Oh.
didn't realize this was directed by Jan de Bont.
Oh,
So the guy who directed Speed and Twister
yeah.
also directed a Tomb Raider movie, The Cradle of Life. Oh,
I never saw that one. I saw the first one.
I think I saw that one. Honestly, they were very forgettable to me. And speaking of forgettable, this director, I think you pronounce his name Uwe Ball. People in the comments will
Oh,
probably know
yeah.
who he is.
Yeah, UWE, right?
Yep,
Uwe?
has some
Yeah.
of the probably the most notorious for making just garbage video game movie after garbage video game movie. So he's done House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, Postal, In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale, Far Cry. Which Far Cry, the first game was like amazing at the time when it came out. He's done all these movies and none of them have been like they were all just really bad. Just really,
So
really bad.
all of those are adaptations of video games?
Yeah. So Alone in the Dark.
I don't even know those video games.
So House of the Dead was the arcade game, the light gun game, where it was like
Oh,
zombies. It was kind of like on rails.
yeah.
And all I can remember from playing that game over and over again in the arcade was reload, reload. Like the game would just tell you to reload. And if you were good, you were holding your gun like this with your finger in front of the little light gun. So you just pressed your finger and hit the trigger and it reloads. Little tip for everybody out there that's not
Ah.
useful anymore. But and then
Well, when we
Alone
get
that
that time machine.
hey, Time Crisis was also another anyway, another
I
light gun
remember that
game.
one. Yeah.
Yes.
You had that foot pedal. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. Alone in the Dark was based on a very Alone in the Dark is kind of classified as a Resident Evil gets kind of the first like nod where people are like that's the first survival horror game. Actually, Alone in the Dark was the
Mhm.
first one that came out before Resident Evil. They're actually doing a remake now, or I don't know if a
Oh.
remake, but kind of the same universe. It's got Jodie Comer and David Harbour in it,
Oh.
so like
I
their
like
actual likeness is in the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, he did all of those. Like Blood Rain was another. You played like a vampire chick character, whatever. Postal was a game. I'll just talk about my experience playing Postal 2 as a young squire. These games were not known for being the most politically correct even at the time.
No.
Yeah, so I specifically remember in
Do you
Postal
go
2.
postal in the game?
I mean, you get it. So in Postal 2, you could do some crazy things like get really, really drunk, pee on a cat, and then light it on fire. And then
What the
because your blood alcohol level was so high, the cat would just run around on fire for like, yeah. And it was, the games are not great. There was like Gary, yeah, Gary Coleman was in it,
Yeah.
and he would just like run around and like beat you up. I mean, he's like that, like this tall, like like he's.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't good. Far Cry. I mean, Far Cry is a major series now, so like you probably have heard of it in some like ways. There's like Far Cry
Oh,
6,
yeah.
Far Cry 5.
Yes.
But the original Far Cry was kind of a like one of the first games that really had like super destructible environments and like a tropical thing. Like it was a big kind
Oh.
of graphics card set piece at the time, and graphics card set piece. I don't know if that was a anyway. I remember trying to play it on my computer at the time, and it just buckled. It was kind of like, but can it run Crisis? So yeah, so he's done a bunch of stuff. I think that's most of them. But if we go back and kind of in between those, there was Doom. I mean, everybody knows Doom. That came out in
Yeah.
'05 with
That was
Carl.
Dwayne Johnson, wasn't it?
Yeah, Carl Urban and The Rock. And one of my
Right.
favorite actresses, Rosamund Pike.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and
Really?
she was in it.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was again, movie was not great at all. But there was that scene where they kind of did a first person view near the end of the movie,
Oh, really?
which was super freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching it, be like, all right, you know what? As cheesy and hokey as this is, it's still pretty cool. Um, Silent Hill then came out in 2006. Which I
Oh.
remember watching going, did they light this movie at all? Because it was very dark in the theater I saw it in.
Yeah.
And I wonder how well it would hold up because it has some like I think Rona Mitra is her name.
I think
And
I
then
think with the success of, I mean, not I don't want to really discuss it much yet because we might get to it later, but The Last of Us, with the
yeah,
success that it had, they should probably do something similar with Silent Hill and have it a series and not a movie.
I think like honestly, I think and we could talk about more when we get to it because I think we can quickly go through some of these because a lot of them are just
Trash.
yeah, yeah. But no, I think a series kind of makes more sense in that you have more time to tell the story and
Yeah,
invest. Like
exactly.
instead of a 2 hour movie or trying to split it up into like 3 movies or whatever, you can do a 8 to 10 episode series. Each episode's an hour. Now you have 8 to 10 hours of
Mhm.
story, and you could really pace things out. That because I mean, if a video game takes 15 to 20 hours to beat,
Mhm.
you could you a lot of that could be easily adapted to like an 8 to 10 hour TV show.
Yeah, for
Mainly
sure.
because there's a lot of like you're not there's no exploration. You're not doing there's no interactivity.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think we can hit on that more uh when we kind of get down the list here because I just want to quickly go through some of these because I'm like I
Yeah,
haven't seen a
because
lot
I'm
of them.
curious to know what else there is because I'm
Yeah,
not.
so there's Dead or Alive that came out in 2006. That's based on the fighting game.
Right.
The third Resident Evil movie came out in 2007. Postal was '07. Hitman, which
Oh, yeah.
Timothy Oliphant's a great actor, but he just did not fit that role whatsoever. Um,
Yeah.
I think like I really liked him. I loved him in Gone in 60 Seconds when he was like, "Are you okay? Are you sure? Because you just went through a wall." Like it was just he's such a funny guy. Also, they came out with a Max Payne game in 2008,
Oh.
but they put Mark Wahlberg as Max Payne. Like who and like Mila Kunis was in it as well. But I was like, who said, you know who would make a great kind of, you know, like he's this kind of like hard boiled detective who has like a drinking problem, and it's very like the games are very like based in like film noir, and there's a lot of like
Yeah.
dialogue, you know, and a lot of kind of like there's this like a lot of that kind of like narration where it's so it reminds me of like Sin City kind of reminds me of it in a way.
Mhm.
But then you put Mark Wahlberg in it, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm Max Payne. I'm gonna
I
go
know,
shoot
right?
bad guys. Like, what are we gonna do? Like,
Right.
like that's like
Say
what?
say hi to your mother for me.
Yeah, say hi to your mother for me, guys. We found a transformer, Optimus. Um, you know, like it's just everything is yeah.
Set in Boston.
Set in Boston. I don't know. So then, okay, so after Max Payne, we had Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun Li, which is like '09. Was this a live action? Yeah, it was a live action film. I've never seen it.
Street Fighter?
Whoa, Kristen Kruk is in it. Kruk from Smallville.
Oh,
Chris Klein. Okay. Wow. Didn't know.
dude.
You know, now I'm vaguely remembering that coming out. Tekken again. I don't. This looks like a
What?
CGI movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember
Science
an actual.
fiction. Science fiction martial arts movie. It does look animated or CGI.
Yeah.
And then something I forgot about after that. Hold on, I just went all the way down there. What the hell? Come on, man. Get with the program,
Come
Brad.
on, man. Hmm.
Let's see. Here we are. Prince of Persia: The Sands of
Oh
Time with Jake
yeah, Jake
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal. That's
Yeah.
right.
That was 010. You know, like kind of unforgettable, I think,
Never
in many
saw it.
ways. Ben Kingsley is in it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like Jake Gyllenhaal really fit in that role. And I think he's a good actor, but like it just felt like you put Donnie Darko in a video game or in a video game movie, like it didn't really
Well,
fit.
isn't
That's so awful.
I mean, I've never I've never played the video game, but like, is it not a Persian person? Prince of Persia?
I mean, I think it's a.
Is it a white dude?
I don't think it's a white dude.
So
Don't think it's a white dude.
what's with the whitewashing? I mean, I love Jake Gyllenhaal and I respect
Yeah,
his craft and he's very good at what he does, but yeah.
yeah. To me, it's kind of like the equivalent of putting an American, like casting an American guy as James Bond.
Right.
You're like, it's no. Let's not go there.
No.
But yeah, like it's kind of a forgettable movie. And then the next two video game movies that came out that were related to video games were Resident Evil Afterlife and Resident Evil Retribution in 2010 and 2012. And I mean,
Gosh.
as much as I
Still like
dislike these movies, I've seen every one but Extinction, which we talked about briefly last week because the editing was
yeah.
so awful in that one.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean they have some cool set pieces in these movies, like some cool kind of action scenes that I think they would be great. It's just like little demo material scenes in movies because like normally the sound's really good. They have some cool like slow-mo sequences,
Mhm.
but overall it's just these movies are not good. They're just it's almost like they don't know how bad they are and they take themselves way too seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like it jumped the shark a while ago.
Yeah.
Joel Gonzalez says it's like Matt Damon in that Japanese samurai movie. Was it
No, it was about the Wall of China, wasn't it?
the Great
The
Wall?
Great Wall, right?
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah, no kidding.
And you watch that movie and you're like, oh wow, that's Pedro Pascal as his right hand man before he was famous. And then
Yeah.
we had Silent Hill Revelation, which I didn't see, and then Need for Speed, which came out. I didn't realize came out
Oh
in
yeah,
2014 with
Aaron
Jesse Pinkman.
Paul.
Jesse Pinkman, yeah.
Yeah.
I like how I call them by characters they've played and not their actual. Like I don't know, like Aaron Paul, the guy from Price is Right. Uh, yeah, I didn't see that one. I know that Shane Hurlbut was the cinematographer on that. which,
Yeah.
if those, like, I follow him on, he's got a channel on YouTube where he kind of breaks down like lighting and stuff. For those who
Mm.
don't know who Shane Hurlbut is, he was the guy that Christian Bale was yelling at in that famous, uh,
Oh,
"We're done professionally. Oh, good for you." You know, that whole like kind of onset tirade. That
yeah.
he was the guy, and in my head, I'm like, this is a young guy who's like that. No, no, he's like 15, 20 years older than Christian Bale. Like it, so, but yeah, he's got some great, as far as like cinematographers go, he's got some great tips.
Yeah.
And I know that like I think the cinematography in this movie looked pretty cool. I just never saw. It's so cheesy. I never was able to get through it. Like it's pretty bad. Like it's,
Yeah.
um,
But it looked great.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of like every Michael Bay movie. Wait, I don't know what's going on. It's so edited so poorly.
Copy.
Then we had Hitman, Agent 47, which was actually recast with this is a completely different movie, um, much closer to the actual games. And then Warcraft, um, which was based on the
That
kind of,
was completely CGI though, or
yep, pretty
animated.
much. I think it was a mixture. There was like a mixture of like real like live action and um like
Oh,
CGI characters. And I've always said this about Blizzard games is I would honestly watch a full movie just like with their like done from by their CGI team, because their
yeah.
CGI cutscenes and stuff in those movies always look above and beyond like a lot of other games. Like it kind of like other games
Yeah.
pale in comparison. But again, I mean, if I'm looking at these just going off of all the critic like ratings, I mean, a lot of these are like sitting at 30s out of 100 in
Oh,
terms of, yeah, or like,
yikes.
we're on the low 30s and on Rotten Tomatoes, or yeah, they're not well done. I mean, we're kind of getting closer to like modern stuff. Um so like after Warcraft was Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender. Um
Right.
again, this is sitting at 36 out of 100, 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. Um it wasn't a good,
Was there a conveniently placed bale of hay all in various
I
points
think
in the movie?
so. I think, I've never made it through the whole movie. It was so bad. I just remember like Michael Fassbender like have like his character almost like having a seizure on this like thing that they like didn't include like a lot of like what made the game like well, as far as I got into the movie, they didn't have like what they had in the games, which is like the animus, where like you go into this it was like some other type of like crane system where they just kind of like suspended you and you could like run. It was so stupid. I was like, yeah, no. And then my favorite movie that we talked about last week, Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. Um, that was the movie my wife and I couldn't stomach to watch any more than 30 or 45 minutes. It just made
Is
us
it the
physically
final
ill.
chapter?
Let's hope so. Um, and then we had the Tomb Raider remake or reboot, I guess, with
Oh yeah.
Alicia Vikander, who I think
Which
became,
I heard was good. Or at
it's
least
actually, it was
I
okay.
heard the video games were really good. Like very very story driven, very cinematic.
Yeah. I laugh at this because I actually bought the digital code when I first got a 4K TV, the HDR TV for
Yeah.
$4 from hdmoviecodes.com. That's how, and it had just like come out like a couple months prior. That's how popular
Mm.
that movie is. Um, and I've never watched it. I don't feel like I wasted $4. I feel like I paid myself for someone else $4 to make me not watch it. I forgot about this. Rampage with Dwayne
Oh, with
Johnson
Dwayne Johnson,
was
yeah.
based on the old arcade where you're climbing up
Yeah, just
buildings
climbing
like
up
trying to
buildings,
smash them.
yeah.
Dead
Climb,
Trigger,
climb, smash,
yeah,
smash.
was the next one. No idea about that. A movie I've never seen, Pokemon Detective Pikachu,
Oh yeah,
which
with Ryan
had
Reynolds as
Ryan.
Pikachu.
Yep. And then so now I feel like we're kind of starting to get into kind of the better like territory with
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Not the greatest movie, but as far as like adaptations go, other than
Uh,
the kind of severe backlash when that trailer first came out, where people were like, Sonic looks too fucking weird. Like we
yeah.
can't, yeah, it, like other than that, they listened, they redid the CGI.
I don't know. Do you think I I heard, or at least there's a conspiracy out there, that it was just a publicity stunt. Like they purposely made a trailer to make Sonic look like an idiot with teeth and everything, just to get some buzz around it. But the whole
Maybe,
time they actually had like a proper version ready to go.
yeah, because then one could argue that they did that, and then they said, look at how much money we also just spent at fixing this because of what you guys wanted, the audience, what the audience wanted. We've listened to your feedback. We're changing this. How often does that happen outside
Never.
of like, you know, doing kind of pre-screening things where people are like, yeah, I don't really get the ending, or so they redo the ending of something. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
But
Oh
to
yeah.
actually go back and completely change a CGI character throughout the whole movie, I don't know. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Um,
Because if
I,
it's just the trailer clips, then it's
yeah,
obviously a lot less to deal with than an
yeah.
entire movie. So
I guess unless I knew someone that was involved in the visual effects team on that, and they were like,
yeah.
"No, dude, we busted our ass on this, and then we literally had to work, 70-hour work weeks for the next like 2 months to get this all done." Then I'm like, "All right, yeah, no, I don't believe in the conspiracy theory." Like it's like
Yeah.
okay, but that who knows? There's so much where I'm like, this could just be a publicity stunt.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I actually enjoyed the Sonic the Hedgehog movie for what it was, the first one.
Mhm.
I'll talk a little bit about the second one when we get to that.
I've
Monster Hunter.
actually I've actually never seen him. But I heard Jim Carrey was great in him too.
He hams it up, man. I think
Yeah.
if you don't like his performance, that's kind of like on you.
Yeah.
Like it's so over the top, but it's like something that I don't know that anyone other than Jim Carrey could really pull off and make it
Mhm.
as kind of, this is going to sound weird, even though it's so over the top, it still feels grounded in that universe in a weird way.
Yeah.
If that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like,
I mean, the fact that the bad guy in that video game franchise,
Dr. Robotnik.
takes takes little animals, these little tiny, cute, adorable animals, and makes them into robots.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Which was not in the movie really. It,
oh, was it?
I think maybe
Oh,
the second one. Again, that shows you how memorable they are. I don't think. Yeah, no, I don't think. It may have been. I just may be misremembering.
yeah.
I don't know.
Because
But
that's what was fun about the video game is that you bounce on one of the robots, and then that little cute, like little bunny would hop out and
yeah,
disappear. It's like, oh, I
yeah.
freed you.
Bam,
Yay.
bam, 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 bam. Cue the music. But yeah, moving on real quick. Let's see. Monster Hunter came out in 2020. It's another Paul W.S. Anderson movie that I didn't watch.
Oh.
Didn't play the game. It's based on a Capcom video game.
Mhm.
And then after that, we got the Mortal Kombat reboot that came out in 2021, which is actually fairly okay, I thought.
Oh yeah, you saw that
Um,
one then?
it was on it was during kind of lockdown COVID, and
Yeah,
basically HBO was putting all of their theatrical releases day and date on HBO
that's
Max. So
right.
that's how I
Mhm.
saw it. Werewolves Within, I haven't seen that. I think that's based off of a I don't know what that's based off of. I don't know what video game. And then we had we had a Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City movie that was not done by Paul W.S. Anderson, and it was
Yeah.
more loosely set in the universe. I heard it was freaking awful. So Resident Evil, not really a great track record. Um,
No.
and then we had Uncharted, which very, very popular
Yeah,
video game.
with Spider-Man.
Tom Holland, and
Yeah.
again, okay, here's my other thing. Okay, we have Tom Holland, which I could kind of see as a young Nathan Drake. If you play the games, there's some flashbacks to him as a young boy, especially in Uncharted 4. You know what? Okay, yeah, I kind of see it. I kind of see it. However, what
Yeah.
I don't see is Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Now, I feel like I'm ragging on Mark Wahlberg this whole time, but like in the game, Sully's kind of like this almost like boisterous like father figure to Drake. Like he's always smoking a
Yeah.
cigar. He's like, "Hey Drake, blah blah blah," and he's like, they've known each other for years. But like when you think of that kind of character, you don't think of Mark Wahlberg at all.
Yeah.
You think of Mark Wahlberg in The Happening, where he like talks about buying a bottle of cough
Right.
syrup, and you're like, why did you had this whole monologue about a completely superfluous bottle of cough syrup? Um,
Right.
like those things stick with me. Can you tell? But I actually thought the movie was somewhat enjoyable. I didn't feel like it matched. It's hard to match 4 games, 5 if you count like the kind of Uncharted. Lost Legacy was kind of like a offshoot with a couple of the female characters. But it's kind of hard to match 5 games in 2 hours in terms of
Yeah.
like story. But like I thought some of the action and stuff was cool. What I've always liked about the Uncharted games were like they had these massive set pieces, but they were still like grounded in reality in a
Yeah.
way. Whereas like the movie got to that point, and then have you seen the movie?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna spoil it for people that haven't seen it. So apologies. Like mute it now or fast forward to this. The end, they end up flying in a like a pirate ship. They like attach helicopter wire, like these big helicopters to wires, and then they're flying through this thing, and then all of a sudden like a fight scene happens, and it's like all just so stupid. Things that just would never. I was like, that never happened in the games.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always like kind of in the games. There's always like these moments where you you know narrowly escape death by jumping out of a train at this specific. But I mean that's kind of like okay, it's not realistic, but you're not flying in a pirate ship 400 feet
Yeah.
above.
Come on.
Yeah. And then finally we have Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which as far as movies, like we're just like this is just the movie list. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which I felt was they took the first movie and they made it. They said, you know what, this was let's say the first movie was PG. Let's try to make this GPG. Like they made
Oh,
it
wow.
very, very like kid friendly.
Yeah.
Which I felt like they should have just tried to match the tone of the first movie. They
Yeah.
made it very kind of weird and cheesy. And then Five Nights at Freddy's, I haven't seen that, but apparently it's not doing too well. It's got a 33 out of 100 there.
Mm.
But I think if we look at like television, like actually real quick, there's a couple like movies coming. So there's like Borderlands coming out, which looks awful. Um, oh my God, there's a Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon film that's in the works with Michael Bay as directing. I won't watch
Oh
that.
no.
Yeah, Until Dawn is in the works. David F. Sandberg is attached to that as a director,
Ooh.
so that might be kind of interesting.
We just talked about him last week.
Yeah. So we're looking at in August, Borderlands the movie comes out. That's directed by Eli Roth. I've seen the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't think anything.
I think the production design looks faithful to the video game, that's for sure.
It does, but it takes like this kind of like I don't know. The casting on that one is I don't know.
Iffy.
Very iffy. Very iffy. So I guess like talking about that now, we have the Last of Us TV series. I think that's probably the most popular kind of
Yeah.
video game adaptation to date of like into a TV series. And I think like we had like kind of briefly mentioned it before, it being that kind of like I think it was like 8 episodes, having those
Yeah.
8 episodes to kind of tell that story. They changed some things, obviously, but I never felt as a big fan of the first video game and even the second one to a degree. Um, I felt that they really captured how that game felt to play
Yeah.
in a passive watching experience,
Right.
which is kind of difficult to do
Mhm.
with a game of that kind of subject matter anyway, because you really get attached to these characters that you're playing as or that you come across. And there's a moments in the this TV series where I'm like, I'm wondering how they're gonna do this. How are they gonna make me feel for this character that I just spent 3 or 4 hours with when they die? Like, how are they gonna make
Mhm.
me feel that same way? And I think they pulled it off.
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely some controversy around the games or the show, and some people are just gonna say it's this or that or it's blah blah blah. And like to me, it's like I played the game. It was the closest adaptation I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Going
I
from a
remember
video,
seeing
yeah,
on YouTube, like, side by side comparisons, and it's,
yep,
like, almost shot for shot certain scenes. So,
yeah, yeah, and it's very well done. I'm curious to see how they're gonna handle the season two, and I'm wondering if
yeah.
it's gonna be kind of the same thing where it's like they take The Last of Us Part Two and they just literally adapt it and
So
change some things.
what happens in Last of Us 1 is pretty much season 1 of The Last of Us on HBO?
Or yeah, yeah. So Last of Us Part One or like first Last of Us game, pretty
Yeah.
much the entire arc of that game is in the show. So like at the
Okay.
end of the show where he's like he basically tells her again, if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoilers, where he tells her that they basically lies to her, lies to
Right.
Ellie, and tells her the what he told her, trying to keep it vague. That's kind of how the first game ends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think that as we just got this comment that came in that says it was so good because they loved and respected the source material, and I think
Yeah.
that's like you hit the nail on the head there, like that. Um, Without having that respect for the source material, and also the creative director of the game, Neil Druckmann, um, who is both loved and hated by many people, I guess.
Mhm.
He was involved directly with the video or with the TV series, and I
Yeah.
think that shows. I mean, that's kind of his baby in a way, and I think he's kind of doing the same thing with part two. I'm really interested to see uh how the public handles part two because
Yeah.
the public did not handle part two of the video game very well.
Oh, no way.
There was a lot of woke stuff. There's a lot of like the one of the villain in
Mhm.
the game. What you can call her a villain if you want to. I don't think that's like the best way to describe her.
Yeah.
Uh, the actor, their actress or whatever, the voice actress too, got like death threats from people.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, I was like, you know what? I don't care if you don't like something, don't like it. But like
Yeah.
for the people that are making like this is her job. Like she voiced the character. Like just
Yeah, dude.
like
She
there's
was
no
given
place for this.
lines
Yes.
to read. It's not her
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna spoil the game or like I'd asked my wife if she wanted to kind of play through the games with me,
Yeah.
and because I was like, you can kind of find out what happens in part two before like you see the show,
Mhm.
and she's like, no, I don't want to. She's like, don't even tell me about it. And I was like, oh, there's such a massive plot piece in there that the game when the trailer came out made it seem different. I'll just say that. And we could talk
Okay.
about it after. I don't want to spoil it for people that are looking forward to the second season or whatever.
Yeah,
But
sure.
but yeah, it's I'm curious to see how people handle that and the kind of there was like I think there's a character in the game that was like you meet this person and you think they're a young boy, but it's actually a young girl who shaved her head because she doesn't want to identify as a girl anymore. She feels kind of tomboy, like she's confused. They're confused, right? And so like
Mhm.
they put that in the game, and oh man, people just kind of like, whoa, 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 this kind of woke garbage is not does not belong in this in my video game. It's like which at one not to dive too far into it, I on one point on one hand I'm like, all right, it's the apocalypse. I really don't know if this should be our focus.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. So that's I kind of saw both sides on that because I was like, I mean, yeah, why are we stopping the story to talk about this when really the clickers that are trying to kill us are kind of the more important thing right now. Let's talk about this later. Like we don't have to talk about this right now.
Mhm.
Um, I just thought it was kind of yeah. But so like I feel like they really did a like bang up job with The Last of Us Part One show.
Yes.
Um, and I'm hoping like I'm a massive Fallout fan. This is kind of what brought the whole thing up to talk about this stuff. Because
Yeah.
I mentioned it to you last week. I saw the trailer, and I'm just like, man, I don't know. It's an Amazon Prime thing, so I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go over.
Yeah,
But
Amazon Prime is hit and miss. There's some really good
yeah,
Amazon Prime shows and
yeah,
some
yeah,
dumb ones. So
yeah. But the trailer that I saw really captured kind of like the vibe and the essence of the games,
yeah.
which I'm like, okay, you got me kind of hooked on this. I
Mhm.
love, and I honestly, Walter Goggins, I think is the actor's name. He's been in like Sons of Anarchy and things like
Mhm.
that. I really like him as an actor, and he plays the I don't know what his character's name is. I can't remember, but it just kind of looks very much like they just took some of the Fallout stuff and put it in a
Mhm.
show. And I
Yeah.
think there's like the the kind of showrunner, director of the show, creator of the whatever. Like they're like a big thing now, right now. Like the big news like headline is like he says he's not making the show to please fans of the game,
Oh.
right? But if you read the article, he actually says I lost a year of my life to I think it was like Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 3 or something like that. Like he literally like got so engrossed into this. So I'm
Hmm.
like, you know what? I someone like that I would trust their judgment.
Yeah.
If they've kind of lived with this game, it's like if someone's gonna make like a game based on Fallout or a game based on Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls and they've never played any of those games, it's why
Yeah, just walk away. Don't even why
yeah.
are you even in the running to be,
Yeah.
director or producer or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be like someone who's never seen a horror movie goes in to pitch a horror movie. It's like, okay, so we have this guy, right? And he was like a troubled kid, abused, and he like dons this kind of like William Shatner mask that's just painted all white. Oh, you're describing Halloween. No, 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 this is a completely new movie. I don't know what you guys are talking about. You know,
Right.
I feel like that would be like a John Mulaney bit. He would just goes
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no. Um, yeah, I think like the Fallout series has the potential to be good,
Mhm.
but we shall have to wait and see there.
It's true though, because like it's going to be good if it's somebody who knows the source material and respects the source material.
Yeah.
Just like oh, what's his face? The new head of DC
James Gunn.
universe. Yeah, just like
James
James
Gunn and
Gunn, how he is such a huge comic book fan of both Marvel and DC. So I'm confident that he is going to do very well and make really good movies in this, upcoming several years of being the head of their creative department or whatever. I'm pretty sure he's going to hit it out of the park because he's really good at creating stories, compelling stories and compelling characters with great character arcs. And yeah, if I need more of that
Yeah.
rather than just hiring somebody who's got a good track record. I would rather have somebody who is a huge fan of the source material than Martin Scorsese, like it's just
Yeah.
it's going to be better that way.
I think, yeah, I mean, you can have like someone like Martin Scorsese, direct something like that or be involved. It's going to be a very, very different thing
Mhm.
to someone who's actually like played the games or kind of immersed themselves in that kind of
Yeah.
universe, lore, whatever you want to call it. And I think that there's something to that. I think a good director brings their own trademark in a way to the source material by making it their own in some way, but also doing a bit of fan service in the process because I mean, if we've seen anything, just going through the list of like movies, if you do it solely based on the name and you're kind of doing it for money only, it's
Yeah.
not probably not going to do if
Yeah, exactly.
you could put an all-star cast in there, you could put a popular actor in a role, and if it's not done with like the care that it deserves, then it's not going to people. It's just not going to resonate with either people, like either crowd. And by either
Mhm.
crowd, I mean the people that have played the video games, love the video games, and people that don't even know that there is a video game.
Yeah.
They see Max Payne, they see Mark Wahlberg, you're like, I like Mark Wahlberg, I'm gonna go see this, and it ends up being something that I don't think anybody really wanted.
Yeah.
They're like, why'd you make it? So
Yeah.
money, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then and the problem with that is as you know, because we've talked about it briefly before, is when something like that fails, then there's less enticement to make something like that again for a
Right.
while. It's too high of a risk for companies. It's like, well, you can't put a blanket statement on this because you made a shitty movie,
Right.
because like you need to go. What this should tell you is it's not that these types of movies fail, it's that movies done this way, the way you're doing it, aren't really resonating with anyone because it's just
Mhm.
kind of haphazardly put together to, tick some boxes and be like, oh, Max Payne's a character. We have this backstory. Okay, like let's blah blah. I'm picking Max Payne out, but like it could be any of the movies that we've kind of talked about that aren't that great. But like going back, because like the kind of focus of this is like, why are video game movies like better, or TV shows and movies better now than they were? And I think it's largely due to that uh, love and care that go into it. That people that actually enjoy this stuff are now involved in it, and not just kind of like these kind of money makers, essentially. These big time directors that
Yeah.
I'm sure like there are directors that would do a great job, but like I don't know if Christopher Nolan would be the right choice for a Last of Us type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, unless he was a fan and we just didn't know it.
Yeah. Which he doesn't even have a cell phone, so I don't think
I know,
that
right?
he's playing video games. I'm just saying
Yeah,
that's logic would dictate, but
yeah.
who
Well,
knows? Who
I mean, that's the
knows?
other thing is like, video games didn't really become really popular until the Nintendo. I mean,
Right.
Atari to some degree, sure, but I think it just blew open this new world when Nintendo came out, and you just had kids clamoring just to get their hands on Super
Yeah.
Mario Brothers and play it as much as they could. And then eventually those kids grew up. So the people in charge of these video game companies and the video game industry as a whole knew that they needed to start kind of catering towards that demographic as they were getting older. And it's continued till today too. Like
Yeah.
all those, same thing with comic books. Comic books and video games used to be just for kids.
Mhm.
and then eventually they just grew up. So, all these people have to be like, well, we got to make comic books and video games for adults too, because they want to play. They are gamers and they enjoy gaming, and we got to sell them
Yeah.
video games too. So, yeah.
I think it's a hard it's a yeah, I mean you pretty much like hit my opinion and viewpoint on it perfectly. I really don't need to
You're
say
welcome.
it. And thank you. He just did all the work for me. Um, I think that we're at like a time now where we have a medium, especially with like even like YouTube, like fan films. Like I've seen fan edits or not edits, but like things that are put together by people that don't really have a budget that
Mhm.
just love the source material. And when you
Yeah.
have that kind of passion, I think like a David F. Sandberg, make those little films, make those things as shorts or whatever, and do it because you're
Right.
passionate about it. You never know where it could lead. Because I don't think that David F. Sandberg knew that when he was making these short horror films for YouTube, that it would lead to him directing, you know, major Hollywood films, or even adapting some of his, like Lights Out was a short film he did that was adapted into a major screenplay.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, wow. Like that's, you just don't know. So if you're really passionate about something, give it, like
Mhm.
get into it, man. Like have fun with it. I think that's
Oh, yeah. One series we forgot to mention was Halo. I personally haven't seen it because I don't have a Paramount Plus subscription, but I heard, especially Halo Season 2 is actually really good, from what I've heard. So,
yeah. So Jose actually said League of Legends season 2 is coming, which we didn't even talk about. I didn't realize there was a show of that. Sorry. And you
oh,
didn't mention
me
the
neither.
Pixels movie. I didn't, but maybe I should. We'll talk about it now. So Pixels is the movie with Adam Sandler
Yeah.
and I think Bridget Moynihan, something.
But Pixels is just about video games in
There's a
general, isn't
ton,
it?
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
ton of video game references in there. And honestly,
Right.
everyone was like, this movie's garbage. I didn't think it was that bad. I've
Yeah.
seen way worse movies. I'll say that much. Um, but it had some funny like bits, and if you're a video game fan, it was worth a watch, I think.
Yeah.
It was also directed by Chris Columbus.
Oh,
So, I
okay.
mean, Home Alone, Harry Potter,
Yeah, first 2 Harry
first couple
Potters.
Harry Potters. Um, I'm glossing over his his filmography.
Yeah.
Michelle Monaghan. I'm sorry, not Bridget Monaghan. Where did I get that? I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth a watch. If you have access to, was it Sony's Core service on their Sony like TVs, their OLEDs and stuff, you can actually get it
Mhm.
in 4K HDR. And it looks great.
Oh,
It looks great.
yeah.
It's got a lot of cool like particle effects. I mean, there's like a giant Pac-Man and
Right.
uh yeah. I don't know. It's a fun, just turn your brain off, watch it. It's got a cool soundtrack. Peter Dinklage is in it. Um
Yay.
he plays like this like famous like arcade guy. Like he's a kind of like the king of Kong guy or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, it was definitely worth a watch there. And yeah, so I think
Uh,
we're
yeah.
gonna wrap things up here. But I was gonna say real quick, if anybody has a general question, go ahead and post it in there. We have a few,
Whee!
but post it in there within the next few minutes, and we'll try to get to it. We try to keep these. I've noticed we try to keep these around 2 hours. I feel like hour and 45 to 2 hours is
Yeah.
probably the best length overall. And yeah, so and hopefully it doesn't provide or prove too difficult for editing a podcast.
Oops.
You know,
No,
so
not really.
I've started a few. Let's see. This was just a general comment. A little bit off topic. Just watch Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom 4K Blu-ray. Audio is lacking. The lower LFE bass, unlike the first one. Yeah, I mean,
I
I would
remember the
agree with
bass
you.
was huge in the first one.
I feel like the bass was overcooked in the first one. Like I feel
Yeah.
like it was too much. Like it also had a kind of digital sound in a way. Like it didn't sound very natural. Like it just sounded kind of like it was in your face.
Yeah.
Um, like when he like the opening in the submarine. That was
Mhm.
just. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I also thought the movie like itself was just ho hum,
Whatever.
whatever, whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. It could use a little more oomph. And we watched it on streaming, and I noticed I had to turn it up almost to zero on the like 0 dB. It was
Whoa.
really really low. I think I ended up at like -2,
Dang.
which is normally I'm at around like -10 to a -12 on
Yeah.
for movies. Yeah, but I've noticed that with streaming in general, I have to turn it up a little louder due to
Yeah. Me too.
them probably compressing it already for like dynamic range
Mhm.
for like sound bars and stuff and TVs. Um, So let's see. Jeffrey asks, "Have you seen OCA's recent Automated Odyssey 1? Any thoughts?" I actually just saw his video today. Well, I haven't watched it, but I saw it was released a couple days ago. But I haven't. I've been busy with a bunch of other stuff. I'm actually in the process of uh, renovating the theater room right now.
Oh, really?
So like, I don't have anything kind of really set up. But I've been like recording stuff. So hey, content's coming. Finally, after 4 months of me not posting anything. But yeah, I'm renovating that, but I do want to check it out. I still have not figured out. I think I talked about it last week. I still not figured out my multi Q X
Oh,
issue.
yeah, yeah.
I haven't tried it on my laptop just because I've been so busy trying to get this one video done for Audioholics. So uh I do plan on trying that out on the laptop to see if I can get it to work. Cause man, I feel like am I missing something? Like this shouldn't be this. I shouldn't have to like jump through hoops to get this stuff to work. So
Yeah, no kidding.
who knows? And then the only other one I have here is also for me. I'm very popular tonight. Um,
Woo!
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm drunk. No. Any chance of you doing a live sub calibration one day? On day. On day,
Mm.
one day. No, I'm kidding. I
One
think he
day.
meant one day.
Yeah.
Actually, that's something I've thought about. And it wasn't until I got Ecamm Live that it was really something that I have seriously considered. I think after I do my updated tutorial series, I might just do like a live calibration. I've wanted to do that and a live television calibration for a while, just
Yeah.
because like whatever happens, happens. Like there's shit that happens in like during calibrations that you kind of have to figure out,
Yeah.
and that's something I like. Normally in a video, I'll talk. I might talk about it, but when you're doing it, it's like it live. It's like okay, well, we have to talk about it now because like I can't just stop the live. Okay, guys, this
Right.
isn't working. See ya. Click.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that that's definitely a possibility because I think that there's issues that come up, and it's also great as I'm going. It would also be great as I'm going through something if someone has a question
Yeah.
about that specific thing, or they've had an issue that they couldn't solve or that it took them forever to solve. That would be a great kind of resource for people, right? Like as they're
Mhm.
doing it here, like obviously be like, hey, follow the tutorial because that's like more of a condensed, like it's tight, it's intended to like basically be like bam, 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 get you done. But if you're like, I want to watch this done live in real time, it's something that people have requested for M Wave. Strangely, maybe not strangely, but it's I don't know if that's even doable at like a kind of convention center in these large rooms.
Mm.
It would be yeah, I could do like some REW live like kind of tutorials or walkthroughs, but like in terms of measuring in the room, that would be kind of difficult, you
Yeah.
know?
sure.
large space with a, I mean, it wouldn't be
Well,
impossible, but
plus just getting everything to function properly while you're live streaming too is
yeah. Yeah, that it would have to be like, okay, I've done dry runs of this multiple times. Now let's just hit
Mhm.
live and hopefully all goes well, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, Elon, we've tried to do things with your theater and it's not
No.
been a great experience.
No, that's why they never made it to YouTube because it was a
Yeah.
disaster that
There'd
blew
be a
up in
lot
our
of cursing.
face.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
cursing and a lot of like just us going like this. Have you
Yeah.
tried this? Like, I don't know at this point. Like, I think, the hard thing is there is like with any system, I'm used
Yeah.
to Denon and Marantz. I'm used to how my system is set up.
Yeah.
And I can adapt in person. It's much easier. Remotely, it's why I've been hesitant to offer any type of like remote calibration services because
Yeah.
there are far too many variables where things can go wrong, and somewhat simple calibration can turn potentially
Mhm.
into hours of troubleshooting remotely.
I
And
mean,
you're
just
just
just ask anybody who does IT remotely,
oh
you
geez,
know?
yeah, yeah. And then not to demean anybody at all. That's not my intention here. But not everyone has the same technical acuity um, that you. I lost my train of thought there. I read a comment and I was like, wait, what? No, but not everyone has the same level of like technical ability or understanding. So it's
Yeah.
like I need to make sure that I'm telling you what I need in a way that like you this a certain person might understand that may not be as technically proficient. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just have also being able to do that while you're troubleshooting is like an almost like an art form,
Yeah.
and it takes patience and time. Um, we do have a couple comments I want to highlight real quick about. I think this might be for you. Any details you can share on the Reno?
The
Reno.
renovation of your theater.
Oh my God. Um, yeah, basically, wow. Um, I need to eat dinner. But yeah, I had a beer and like now I'm just like, what? No, so basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the TV finally off of the stand. I have a table like a not a tabletop, but like a floor mount type system for it. So like it'll push the TV against the wall because I can't wall mount it where it currently is because there's a big window, and the only way I could wall mount it was to kind of block that window in with like 2x4s and frame it and everything. And I didn't really want to go through that hassle. And so like I just bought $100 stand on Amazon that is adjustable, so I can adjust the height. So that's getting pushed to the wall. That will bring the center channel out from the uh, like the cubby hole in the entertainment stand up on top of the entertainment stand. So I'll have like, maybe try to figure out how high I should put the TV, to where it's
Yeah.
it's comfortable. I need to kind of look at that. But there will be enough room for the center channel as well as bigger center channels. So like getting stuff in for review or like wanting to get like a, better speakers down the road. That's one of the biggest benefits of doing it. It will also allow me to push the entertainment stand maybe about 8 to 10 inches forward. So it will open up space in the theater room because space is already like super tight in there. It's a small
Yeah.
room. Um, and then I'm also like basically I'm not moving the seating, but ever since I set everything up, and you kind of can't see this in the videos I've done, but ever since I set everything up, things are like maybe an inch and a half off center. Like so
Oh.
the entertainment stand isn't perfectly centered. So when I go to like say put the two PB4000s on the left and right, the stands, the little the risers I have for the front speakers, there's not enough space on the left side to push the subwoofer all the way to the front of the room.
Hmm.
And so I kind of have to like put it in front of it, and I do the same on the other side, even though there's more than enough space because there's a whole like inch and a half, 2 inches of space available there. So I'm going to recenter everything. But unfortunately, basically, it requires me to take the TV off the stand that we have. I have to take apart the back, the back part of it off to get to the center channel because I can't get it out, and then reassemble that back part, push it forward. So then, like, basically, it's a lot of like little tweaks and things that I wish I maybe looked into and did like 2 years ago when I did the whole theater room. But I'm doing it
Yeah.
now, and it should be fun. The great thing is the way I'm doing it and the way I've set it, like the Atmos speakers, I won't need to readjust those in terms of positioning or anything. So those are
Oh, cool.
perfect where they are.
Yeah.
What I might do is I have a couple extra Pioneer Andrew Jones bookshelf speakers, and I'm thinking of basically I have the capability to do 7 bed channels along with 4 height channels. So I might try to figure out a way to mount the back surrounds
Mhm.
like slightly above the listening position, because right now if I put them at ear level, they're gonna be blocked by the back of the seats.
Ah.
Yeah, I shot something this morning where I explained all of that, and I don't know if you can tell, but I shot that this morning because I was trying to figure out how to explain it all in the video.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I was yeah, that's that. I don't know when that video is coming. I'm hoping. It just depends, because I kind of have to wait on my wife to help me move the TV around because I can't do
Yeah.
that by myself. It's a 77-inch OLED, which
Right.
is already temperament. Dude, I'm so scared of moving that damn thing. It's so thin on like you have to be very careful. Um, so basically, getting it off the stand super easy, right? The entertainment stand. It's like attaching because it's basically like a wall mount type situation for the floor stand. So it's
Yeah.
attaching those things, taking it off of the base, and then like kind of hooking it onto the um the floor stand.
Right.
Which once it's on, okay, cool. It's
Yeah.
just that nerve-wracking bit of like, okay. Which honestly, it should be fine because like on the heaviest part of it, like, and you have an LG OLED. I don't know if
Mhm.
you found this. The heaviest part is the freaking stand on the
Oh, yeah.
bottom that it attaches to.
Yeah.
Like when we were moving and I was packing the TV up, I forgot how heavy that damn stand is.
Yeah.
Cause like we took the TV off. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like this is light. Like once you get it off of the little
Off. Yeah.
hooks, it's like, oh, great. But like that whole time, you're like, I hope nothing breaks
Mhm.
on this little because we're gonna be screwed if like one of these little tabs break off on the plastic bit on the back. So it'd be great to kind of have the TV further back, and then um, maybe maybe I might look at just doing some type of projector screen that comes down in front of the
Oh,
entire front
yeah.
soundstage, like kind of a motorized
Yeah.
screen mounted to the drop ceiling, comes down,
Mhm.
and then I have some type of short throw projector in the rear because the distance is the issue, right?
You can have something behind it? Like, there's enough room to have something behind the screen if you were to do that?
Yeah, yeah. So like
As opposed to the ultra short throw.
yeah, I couldn't do the ultra short. Well, I could maybe do the ultra short throw, but I'm limited by the size of the room and like how far the left and right front speakers are spaced.
Mm.
So like I think maybe like about an 83-inch display to 83 to 90 is about the biggest I could go, where
Yeah.
like the speakers wouldn't impede the sides of the screen, if
Right.
that makes sense. So having it come down in front of all of that, so everything will be about a foot off of the wall on the front, having that screen come down in front of it, and then a projector mounted in the rear, short throw obviously because of the size of the room.
Mhm.
I'd have to look at that to see like how big of the screen I could go,
Yeah.
you know. But it will probably be. I'm not a huge fan of projectors for gaming.
Yeah, true.
Um, the it's not as simple as like, oh, bigger screen, more immersive, everything. It's as you currently there are no really affordable projectors that can do 4K 120. Um, because at like a massive, like this is just my opinion and my experience. Even a 60 frames per second game at a massive screen size of like let's say 120, 130 inches
Mhm.
will appear more jittery at that screen size than a smaller screen. It's the same as if you watch something on your phone and then you blow it up on your TV, and like let's say on your phone the pans and everything looks smooth, but as soon as you blow it up on the TV, even at like let's say 30 frames per second, oh, there's some judder there that you didn't notice on your phone. It's because
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of like the whole PC gaming thing where like people are like have their faces right against their monitors. So like all the motion bits and stuff really stand out when you start dropping frames. But like if you're 12 feet back from a 75-inch TV, it's probably not going to be that noticeable, you know?
Right.
So, but yeah, so that's what I can share now. I'm hoping to have a video out this week, but it might be next. I just got, I'm working on a couple other videos for Audioholics as well. And let's see. Joel actually says, by the way, Elon, your edits on your videos are awesome. I wish I can one day get to that level. I agree. I wish I could do that. I wish I could be on your level, Elon.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just don't have your voice.
Joel. Thanks, Joel.
I'm Elon
Whatever.
Osborne.
You're the
Yeah.
one that can do movie trailer guy voice. I can't.
I mean, I don't do it all the time. You know, in a world.
Yeah. I don't possess that capability.
Maybe I should like make some money at it. Then we
should.
could talk, right?
You should.
Tonight. But anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I see a comment that says something about Horizon Forbidden West. It's a great one, 4K 60. Definitely, I'm excited to see.
What in the?
Oh, we have a Turkish fan. I think this might be
Oh wow. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. It is 4:11 in the morning. It is 9:13 here in Florida. Elon,
6:13.
We're like just a bunch of
in
time travelers.
California.
Hey, man. Time travelers.
Well, thanks, Yusuf. That's very
this-
kind of you. And thanks for waking up so early.
Yeah. Hopefully you got a reason to be up early and you just like, because as someone who deals with insomnia, I know how that is. So, yeah, if you're going to work, thanks for stopping by. Or if you're just up enjoying the morning, like some people get up early because they have kids and they don't want to deal with the kids. They got to get their workout in. I mean, you know, like we have cats, so they're just up at all hours of the night. Anyway, so
Look at me run.
look at me run. We're gonna play together and sound like we're murdering each other. That's fun.
Do they get
That's fun.
loud?
No, it's more like you'll randomly hear like a
Oh,
like
okay.
they're playing and like they're like stop it, you know,
Right.
like so funny. But all right, well I think that
Yeah.
that
think
will
so.
conclude our broadcast day here. Keep the TV on and the Star Spangled Banner will play and followed by static. I'm kidding. That's like it's old school, man. They don't do that anymore. That's like some poltergeist stuff there.
Didn't they play the national anthem too? Like a American flag waving and then
Yeah.
it would cut to static?
Yep. Carol Ann. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Do you have any final closing thoughts here, Mr. Elon?
Hydrate. You know, it's good for you.
Yeah, drink water.
Yeah.
Don't just drink coffee and soda and energy drinks. Don't drink energy drinks. That's my
Yeah.
don't do it.
They're just chock full of sugar, man, and way too much caffeine.
This is a late night musings with Brad and Elon. Energy drinks, good or bad? Let's talk about it. As a non-doctor, I can conclude that energy drinks are bad for you. Smoking's bad. Anyway, well, I think on that note, we're gonna end this here. We'll see you guys again next week, same time, same place.
Same place.
And yeah, have a good one, guys. Enjoy your evening.